Welcome to the Explainer. If you manage infrastructure, you've probably figured out that the most startling discoveries usually happen when you're just doing totally routine maintenance. Well, today we are unpacking a really fascinating tech mystery that recently sent some serious ripples through the virtualization community. We're looking at a fresh install report for Proxmox VE 9.2 that literally had admins doing a double take. We're going to break down exactly what they found, what it actually means for your hardware, and how we can navigate these firmware mysteries without, completely breaking a sweat.
So is Intel microcode disabled in Proxmox 9.2? Man, it's the kind of question that just makes a system administrator's blood run cold, right? I mean, imagine firing up your brand new enterprise hypervisor cluster. You're expecting top-tier security, rock-solid stability, only to stumble across a setting that suggests your CPU's most critical updates have been intentionally blocked. No way. It sparked a massive wave of forum panic. But before you go sounding the alarms in your own data center, let's just take a deep breath. Seriously, don't panic. Because as you'll see, in the world of Linux kernels, things aren't always exactly as they appear at first glance.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's the exact quote from the admin who flagged the whole thing. They were using the latest ISO, the enterprise repositories, and they were just innocently adjusting their ZFS arc limits. A totally normal Tuesday afternoon task. And right there, looking through the /etc/modprobe.d directory, they spotted it. A default blacklist entry for Intel microcode. I mean, it's a completely reasonable observation. And it immediately begs the question, if this module is on a blacklist, are my hosts vulnerable? Are we missing vital updates?
Let's move into Section 1, why CPU microcode matters, and the real stakes of virtualization. Because this discovery, it's genuinely terrifying for a hypervisor administrator if it turns out to be true.
First up, we need to make sure we're totally clear on what microcode actually is. Basically, think of microcode as the absolute lowest level firmware for your processor. Modern CPUs are incredibly complex, right? And occasionally they ship with tiny bugs, known as errata. Well, instead of forcing you to physically replace the expensive silicone in your servers every time a flaw is found, vendors release microcode updates. These updates literally correct CPU behavior on the fly. They patch stability issues, they lock down severe security vulnerabilities. It's an absolutely crucial, foundational part of your platform's security and reliability baseline.
And here's why this matters so much for us. Think about the difference in scale. On a standard workstation, if your microcode is outdated and the system crashes, well, one user has a really bad day. But on a virtualization host running Proxmox, that CPU's behavior dictates the reality for every single guest operating system running on that physical machine. The blast radius is massive. A single unpatched host might be running dozens, maybe even hundreds of your most critical virtual machines and containers. The risks cascade so incredibly fast. I mean, if those updates really were disabled, you're looking at unpatched CPU errata, random system instability, gaping security vulnerabilities, the whole shebang. But for cluster admins, there's another hidden nightmare here: live migration failures. See, live migration relies heavily on identical CPU feature flags across all your hosts. If one host has outdated microcode, it might expose different instruction sets, and boom, your smooth live migrations abruptly fail. Just one bad host truly compromises the integrity of the entire cluster.
All right, let's move to Section 2, Decoding the Module Blacklist. It's time for the myth-busting reveal, shifting from panic mode into our technical problem-solving mode.
Listen, if you take absolutely nothing else away from this explainer, let it be this: that etc/modprobe.d directory is not the final state of your processor. I know, it looks super definitive. Blacklist is a very strong word, but in modern Linux architecture, a module blacklist really just dictates how a specific kernel module is handled during the standard loading phase. So it's entirely possible, actually scratch that, it's highly likely for a module to be blacklisted here for a perfectly valid reason, while the processor itself is still happily receiving its updated microcode.
It all comes down to early bootloading, or initramfs. It's basically an iceberg. That /etc modprobe.d file, that is just the tiny tip of the iceberg that you can easily see above the water. But beneath the surface, doing all the heavy lifting, is initramfs. Modern Linux systems use this mechanism to apply critical updates, specifically stuff like CPU microcode, very early in the boot process, way before the operating system even glances at your standard module configurations.
And this brilliantly illustrates the whole timeline. Follow along with me here. Step 1. The system powers on, and the system firmware or BIOS provides its baseline microcode. Step 2. Early boot. This is where initramfs steps in and applies those updated microcode packages provided by the OS. Step 3. Then, and only then, do we get to regular module loading, which is exactly where our infamous blacklist file lives. See? Because the microcode was already applied in Step 2, Proxmox might intentionally blacklist the module in Step 3 just to prevent conflicts or redundant loading. The update isn't broken at all. It just already happened.
Section 3. Verifying your running host. We need to stop guessing and start checking. Let's look at how to verify the true state of things.
But first things first, please step away from the delete key. I know, the classic sysadmin urge is to see a weird configuration file, highlight it, and delete it just to see if it fixes things. Don't do it. Do not make manual changes to low-level configurations based solely on appearances. A config that looks unusual to you might be highly intentional by the Proxmox engineering team. Just blindly deleting that blacklist without understanding it could actually trigger brand new problems.
So instead of deleting things, let's use a solid verification workflow. Number 1, check your actual package state. The form report specifically referenced Proxmox VE 9.2.0 running a 7.0.14 based PVE kernel. Always make sure you know exactly what you're running. Number 2, inspect those boot logs. Search them for microcode-related messages so you can see what initramfs actually did during startup. And finally, number 3, ask the CPU itself. Use your standard Linux system info tools to check the active microcode revision currently loaded on the processor, and then just compare that with what Proxmox expects in their documentation.
Now, if you do happen to find a real anomaly and you need to make a change to your firmware, always, and I mean always, test it on a non-critical node first. Remember those live migration failures we talked about earlier? Virtualization clusters heavily magnify the impact of host-level changes. If you tweak the microcode on a production node and it alters the exposed CPU feature flags, well, your workloads might behave unpredictably, or they might just refuse to migrate entirely. Coordination here is absolutely key.
Section 4, Managing Firmware at Scale. Let's zoom out for the broader takeaway on infrastructure observability.
So the crucial point here is comparing virtual visibility against hardware visibility. Virtualization teams usually have incredible visibility inside their VMs, right? You know exactly what the guest OS is doing, its CPU usage, its RAM footprint. But look at the hardware side. We so often have these massive blind spots when it comes to the actual physical layer underneath. BMC data, firmware revisions, the exact microcode loaded, thermal sensors, these physical realities dictate your virtual performance. Yet they're often entirely unmonitored until something suddenly breaks.
Let's talk about building a real strategy to fix that. You need a hardware baseline. Don't just treat firmware updates as this occasional emergency task you only do when you see a scary forum post. You should actively document your expected BIOS, BMC, and microcode versions for every server model. Coordinate these changes carefully with your regular maintenance windows, and crucially, capture the system state before and after you make changes. That way you can immediately spot if a feature flag or microcode revision shifts unexpectedly. Continuous lifecycle management across both software and hardware is the modern standard.
You know exactly what your VMs are doing every second of the day, but do you know what your hardware is doing? When a forum report surfaces about a microcode blacklist, you really shouldn't have to guess. You need the tools to simply look at the running state of your silicon and know for sure.
And that is exactly where out-of-band monitoring becomes your best friend. To eliminate those blind spots between the hypervisor and the bare metal, you need dedicated visibility. Sensaka DCOS perfectly complements your Proxmox monitoring by giving you that deep, hardware-focused view. It tracks BMC data, microcode, thermal sensors, even if the host operating system is completely struggling. Don't let your hardware be a mystery. You can actually see it in action and request an online trial at Sensaka's website/free-trial. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, but before you go, I want you to look at your cluster and ask yourself, are you truly managing your hardware, or are you just hoping the hypervisor handles it for you?